Welcome back to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating case study on organizational structure, talent allocation, and ultimately leadership. We're going to look at a highly critical moment within the Night's Watch, which, as you know, is a fiercely rigid military order. And we'll examine how one young recruit basically managed to hack this inflexible system from the inside out just to save a life. It's an absolutely brilliant example of how recognizing specialized skills can completely override a stubborn, one-size-fits-all training protocol.
Part 1, a bitter graduation. Let's get right into it. So the Master-at-Arms, Sir Alistair Thorne, relies entirely on fear and brutality to set these life-or-death stakes for his young recruits. He looks at this assembly group in the yard and flat out tells them they are as hopeless as any boys he has ever trained. He literally says their hands were made for manure shovels, not for swords, and if it were up to him, he'd set the lot of them to herding swine. He completely strips away any illusion of glory, bluntly reminding them that they are still boys, green and stinking of summer, and when winter comes, they'll die like flies. But what makes this graduation so uniquely bitter is the cold, hard logistics driving it. Thorne isn't passing these boys because they've achieved some great merit. No, he explicitly tells them that a man named Garin is marching 5 new boys up the King's Road, and Thorne simply needs to make room. He callously adds that 1 or 2 of the new batch might even be worth the price of piss. So he promotes 8 recruits, calling them out by these cruel, mocking nicknames: Toad, Stonehead, Urox, Lover, Pimple, Monkey, Sirloon, and finally, he looks at John and says, the Bastard. Now, even though Thorne explicitly calls them fools for believing they are true men of the Night's Watch, the boys just naively celebrate. Pipelets fly a hoop, yells that a black brother needs a horse, and literally leaps onto Gren's shoulders. They tumble to the ground, rolling and punching and hooting. Darian grabs a skin of sour red wine, and soon they're passing it around, grinning like fools, while Mathar and Jaren climb the wall to pelt everyone with snowballs. It is total, chaotic naivety. But right in the middle of all this, while the others are laughing, cursing, and rolling around in the snow, Jon Snow notices a really stark contrast. Samwell Tarly is standing completely by himself beneath a bare, dead tree in the corner of the yard. Jon walks over and offers him a swallow of wine, but Sam refuses. Jon asks if he's okay, and Sam's round face quivers as he forces a smile and lies, saying, "Very well, truly, I am so happy for you all." Suddenly, Pipe snatches the wineskin from Jon, dances away, and gives it a squeeze, squirting a thin stream of red wine right into Jon's face. By the time Jon wrenches free from the snowball fight, with wine stains on his surcoat and snow in his hair, Sam is gone. Jon realizes that the heavy toll of this rigid system is falling squarely on Sam, who is being left behind to face Thorne's cruelty completely alone. Part 2, Defending the Ice Wall. To truly understand the gravity of Sam's situation, we need to take a quick look at the Watch's operational structure. That night, Three-Finger Hob cooks the boys a special meal to mark the occasion. I mean, we're talking rack of lamb baked in a crust of garlic and herbs, mashed yellow turnips swimming in butter, and bowls of iced blueberries with sweet cream. As they gorge themselves, they start talking about where they'll end up. Now, every single man who wears the black is expected to take up steel in the Wall's defense. But the Rangers, they are the true elite fighting heart of the Watch. These are the guys who dare to ride beyond the Wall, sweeping through the haunted forest and the icy mountain heights, fighting wildlings, giants, and monstrous snow bears. The boys all assume Jon is completely certain to be a Ranger. It's the most prestigious role, but it demands intense physical prowess. On the other hand, we have the Builders. As one recruit, Halder, accurately points out during the feast, what use would Rangers be if the massive wall just fell down? The Builders perform the absolute crucial physical labor of the Watch. They are the masons, the carpenters, and the miners. They clear away new forest growth, crush stone for roads, dig tunnels, and ride the length of the wall watching for cracks or signs of melt. Centuries ago, they even dragged immense blocks of ice from frozen lakes deep in the haunted forest on massive sledges, just to raise the wall higher. It is a wildly demanding, physically intensive path.
Part 3, The Midnight Dilemma. So, amid all this feasting and talk of Rangers and Builders, Jon realizes exactly what happens to those who simply don't fit the physical mold. Once Jon and his friends swear their vows and take up their new duties, they're gone. Sam will be left behind in training with ruthless recruits and those 5 new boys coming up the King's Road. Jon knows without a shadow of a doubt that Sir Alistair Thorne will send these new boys against Sam at the very first opportunity. And because Sam has zero physical combat skills, it's only a matter of time before he is severely hurt or outright killed right there in the yard. This creates a profound internal dilemma for John. Overwhelmed by restlessness that night, he saddles his horse and takes a midnight ride. Keep in mind, he hasn't sworn his vows yet. He actually considers abandoning it all, just riding south down the King's Road back to Winterfell. But he quickly remembers there's no place for a bastard there. Lady Stark wouldn't welcome him, and he certainly has no place in King's Landing either. He looks back and sees the wall pale beneath the moon, vast and cold, running from horizon to horizon, and he chooses duty. He wheels his horse around, heads back to Castle Black, and resolves to hack the system from within to find a solution for his friend. Part 4. Chain of Many Mells. To save Sam, John essentially bypasses the entire normal chain of command and goes straight to the top. He takes a massive risk by forcing his way into the apartments of the aged, blind Maester Aemon in the dead of night. To even get in the room, he has to wedge his boot in the door and face down Chet, an angry, boil-covered steward who answers the knock. When John pleads his case, Chet aggressively pushes back. He calls Sam a craven pig and argues that the wall is no place for the weak. Chet tells John they should just let Thorne make a man of him or kill him, and John boldly shoots back that this kind of logic is completely stupid. To prove his point to the wise Maester Aemon, John delivers this incredible piece of insight he learned from his old teacher, Maester Luwin. He points out that the Maester's collar is made of a chain to remind him that he is sworn to serve the realm. But a chain cannot be made of just one single thing. It requires all sorts of metals, just as a functioning organization requires all sorts of people. John breaks it down beautifully here. Maester Luwin taught him that different metals represent completely different kinds of learning. Gold is for the study of money and accounts. Silver is for healing. Iron is for warcraft. If an organization or an entire realm were made entirely of iron, of just warriors and knights, it would collapse in a day. You need the lead, the tin, the copper, the bronze. You need the farmers, the smiths, and the merchants. The Night's Watch is exactly the same. It cannot survive on warriors alone. Right at this moment, the angry steward Chet chimes in, fiercely defending his own order, the stewards. He demands to know if John thinks his work is just for cowards. Chet angrily lists off everything the stewards do. They hunt and farm, they tend the horses and milk the cows, they gather the firewood, cook the meals, make the clothing, and bring up all the vital supplies from the south. Without even realizing it, Chet inadvertently proves John's exact point. He perfectly outlines a massive logistical undertaking that keeps the entire watch alive without ever having to swing a sword. Maester Aemon gently tests John, asking if Sam is a hunter, a farmer, or maybe a butcher. John admits he isn't any of those things. Chet laughs at this, saying soft lordlings would just blister their hands churning butter or chop off their own feet with an axe. But John brilliantly pivots here. He contrasts Sam's obvious physical weaknesses with his highly specialized intellectual strengths. John points out that Sam can do sums, he can write, and he's literally read every single book in his father's massive library. He sharply notes that Chet can't read at all, and the other steward, Clytus, has incredibly weak eyes. Plus, Sam is good with animals, which makes him the perfect candidate for tending the messenger ravens. And that brings us to this incredible quote that perfectly captures the absolute core takeaway of our explainer today. You can't hammer tin into iron no matter how hard you beat it, but that doesn't mean tin is useless. John essentially argues that trying to force someone into a mold they simply aren't built for will only destroy them, quite literally in Sam's case. But by reallocating that person to a role where their unique skills fill a massive operational blind spot, you save resources and you strengthen the whole organization. Maester Aemon fully agrees, noting that John's mind is just as deft as his blade. So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. When you look at your own teams, your own organizations, are you stubbornly trying to hammer tin into iron through rigid, one-size-fits-all training? Or are you identifying and actually utilizing the unique metals you already possess to build a much stronger chain? Understanding that difference isn't just about efficiency, as we clearly saw at the wall. It is the true mark of leadership. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.